Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm super excited to welcome all of you today to the live talk show on Beyond the Pandemic Procurement and Supply Chains Time to Shine and Thrive in Uncertainty. During the COVID 19 pandemic, many of us have been using words like cope and adapt more than shine. Well, that's pretty understandable. Procurement and supply chain people around the world have been trudging through the realization that existing processes and tools were not designed for what this global crisis has brought on. But no doubt, procurement and supply chain people have been shining throughout. They have been helping to maintain business operations and by containing costs. So, now, in the interest of time, I'd quickly introduce the moderator with CPO Innovation today, Deben Moser. He is the Executive Director and Head of Project Management Services with Knight Frank India Private Limited. I welcome you, Deben.
Thank you, Mania.
Also joining us today, we have Neelam Pathak, Director Sourcing and Analytics with Nordex. Welcome, Neelam. Joined by us today, we have Viraj Mehta, Global Director Supply Chain Shared Services with the Kraft Heinz Company. I welcome you, Viraj.
Thank you, Manya, and thank you, CPO team, for having me here.
Alongside, we also have Ramkesh Changra, Head Supply Chain with Ericsson. Welcome, Ramkesh.
Thank you so much, Mana, Deben.
And also we have Anton. He's the Deputy Head Commodity Procurement with Vedanta Resources Limited. Welcome, Anton.
Good morning, all. Thank you, CPO Innovation team. Nice to meet you and speak about this topic.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Now, with no further delay, I would invite Deben to start with the session. Over to you, Deben.
Thank you so much, Mania. Welcome all the panelists. The COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare many long-standing vulnerabilities and risks lurking in organizations' supply chains. In some cases, it has caused companies to take a hard look at their processes and their business models. In others, it has opened new opportunities for innovation, growth, and competitive advantage in post-pandemic world. Overall, it has demonstrated the power of interconnected digital supply networks to enable organizations to anticipate, sense, and respond to unexpected changes and minimize their impacts. While the pandemic is still unfolding and its long-term effects are still unknown, what is clear is that the crisis seems to have helped accelerate fundamental shifts in what customer values, how customer buys, and how business needs to operate differently to meet customer requirements and earn their trust and loyalty. Firstly, I'm privileged to be moderating this panel discussion on Beyond Pandemic, Procurement and Supply Chains, Time to Shine and Thrive in Uncertainty. And I'm sure with the wealth of experience the panelists will bring to the table, we'll have an interesting discussion and some great takeaways for the audience. I'll kick off the discussion asking the questions that draw out some high-level themes and ideas we should be thinking about. And then we'll open up the chat box and give you opportunity to ask specific questions that you've been thinking to help you navigate with your upcoming business opportunities and challenges. Sounds good? Let's get started. So I'll start with my question to Ramkesh. What is the impact of pandemic and reaction of telecom industry to this pandemic?
Thank you, Deben. As I'm associated with telecom industry, so will more elaborate in about telecom itself. Telecom being kind of essential service in any pandemic or any earthquake or in any natural calamity. Even to manage the situation, the disaster management team need a good communication platform. And for that, in every this kind of situation, whether it is the current global pandemic or Chennai tsunami or Uttarakhand earthquake and floods and in Mumbai floods or in any part of the globe, whenever there is such kind of situation arise, this kind of force majeure, then telecom industry need to rush on war footing and create communication setup so as people don't feel panic, they get proper communication from that. In similar line, to establish good network, supply team has to play a bigger and challenging role by moving the required material at the required site so as the tower gets started and network get ramp up. In this kind of situation, also in current pandemic, it was quite challenging uh, to keep at home, to keep isolate, and to provide good quality of network. The requirement of network surge or increase in manifold at a sudden. All education, all medical, all business get started online. Arrange the material from global um, locations, and ships are not working, flights are not working. Then special arrangements, special approvals were taken, and material was flown from one location to a different part of the world. And then domestic transportation. It happened in a very short span of time, or rather, I say overnights. And people with all COVID compliances and precautions were rushed to the sites and provide all required network to the world. And this become part of life also. As a reaction, industry react very professionally or very managed way. And I'm happy that telecom industry provide good platform of communication and online solutions to all education, medical, and business houses.
Thanks. My next question is to Viraj. Uh, during this pandemic, and you are representing a food industry. So, how did you manage the challenges, and what steps did you take to make sure that uh, the goods are reaching to people and there's no disruption to that?
So, like a lot of things, we did a lot of things in order to ensure that our, because if you see the sector that I am part of, packaged foods was one of the sectors which did well, and that was because of the consumer habits that changed, the meals at home increase in 2020, people staying at home. So in terms of SKU complexity, if you see the food services business, which is to the B2B business, went down sharply, almost 80 to 90% it dropped, whereas the retail business, which is the consumer business, that went up to 40% to 200% SKU by SKU. So we saw that kind of variation in demand across SKUs, and it was uh, and that was primarily in the initial couple of months due to the stocking up, and then also as people continued staying in home, the consumption further increased. Now, what were the challenges that we faced? So, I am a big uh, fan of preparing for the VUCA scenario, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous scenario, right? And uh, when I was with PNG, we were trained to design our supply chain, to have a actionable BCP in place, so business continuity plan. So almost every company has a BCP document, right? But then how actionable it is, how realistic it is, right? So that is something that I've been trained on, and that is something that we used. Uh, 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 So in my team, so we have a team of around 500 supply chain professionals across the globe managing supply chain, supply planning, material planning, deployment, transportation for the global business. Uh, One of the things that we did when we saw few things happening in China in January, that supply chain was getting disrupted, we immediately swung into action and did a BCP exercise for rest of the world. Uh, and some of the actions which we took were, can we work remotely? So we had a 1 week remote session in January. We found a lot of issues. We corrected all the issues by February. That was one, which helped us to scale up immediately. As we moved into pandemic, we moved into lockdown, so there was no disruption at all because we were already ready for that. Similarly, in January, we took a call. We went out to all our raw material, pack material, and WIP suppliers, all our co-packers, co-manufacturers, and ensure that they are carrying sufficient stocks of 3 months, or they have hedged the supply as we deal into as all our products are kind of part of commodities. So we ensured that the supplies are secured. If needed, we took approvals for some extra inventory because we saw something was happening and we were not sure. And since this was just start of the year, we got approvals of having some extra inventory in place, and these were just precautions that we took to ensure that if something happens, we are ready for it. And that is something that really helped us. Now coming to uh, how we manage the SKU complexity or the by SKU demand variations that happened. So that is something that we're still we're still, I would say, in the retail SKUs. If you see, the pandemic is not yet over, right? So we still continue to
Correct.
see the same demand variations in food services going up and down, and the retail business is continuously on the higher side versus demand. So those challenges we are managing by again, one of the other thing that we did, the third part which I forgot to mention, was the procurement team went out of their way and they qualified lot of alternate suppliers. Now this is very important. What if your main supplier shuts down because of pandemic, right? Do you have alternate sources of supply? Are your alternate suppliers qualified by quality and the R&D team, so that it doesn't disrupt your label, right? Do you have an alternate labeling in place to switch production of an SKU from one plant to other? So these are all operational things which I'm saying, but these are very critical, which helped us to sail through the pandemic and deliver the business. I mean, not only meet the goal but beat the goal in 2020.
Thanks. Neelam, how did Nordics cope with the pandemic? Were you ready? Like Viraj said, they started preparing for pandemic from January onwards. How did Nordics, you know, plan their sort of for the lockdown and at the same time manage their customers? So what was the strategy? We can't hear you, Neelam.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
now we
Okay.
can hear you.
So first of all, thank you and CPO Innovation team for having me here. I heard Viraj, I heard the other people as well, Ramkesh. For Nordics and rather than Nordics, it's the kind of manufacturing company, especially the core manufacturing group overview that I want to give. And there were some myths that were broken also during this time of the pandemic. When we, just to give you what used to happen, core manufacturing companies, especially the company which are in steel industry and heavy industries, they were not supposed to be managing the business virtually, because of we used to have in-person connects. While when we realized this, and just to tell you the numbers, uh, almost the manufacturing 30% of the global supply, especially for the core industry, comes from China. Last year, when the pandemic started early with the China, like from December or November 2019 to March, and then after that, we saw the whole of the other world is groped by it. So when we saw that, that most of our supplies which were actually stuck, because earlier China had the lockdown, and when China's Chinese industry got open during the March 2020, the other part of the world were locked down. Now this actually helped us to understand the supply chain agility portions that we talked about, mainly the three factors: flexibility, velocity and the lead time reduction. Viraj did talk about, and in a way, we started looking for alternate suppliers uh, outside China too. Because if we cannot get our supplies there, from where then? And then the people start looking towards the industries in India, Taiwan, Korea, the other low cost sourcing countries. Now, the whole point is you cannot develop an alternate supplier overnight or in 2 months. It takes time to develop the components, the suppliers in the kind of industry we are in, because there is a development time, there is a testing time, and also there is a supply and manufacturing time. Now with all this, what we did is that we started, so because in the kind of business I represented, we do have a customer advances that we take in, and it's very very important for us to commission the machines on time, because if we do not do that, we have there is penalty and the things that comes in getting in. So for what we started doing is a kind of drip irrigation system. Just to explain you, like whatever I had, I'll complete the project, and then complete that project and move ahead with the collection of money from that project, then come to the another project and complete it. So the inventories that we had it, and in our case we do keep inventories, because there are some components which has a lead time supplies of around 8 months, 9 months. So whatever the inventories, our whole inventories was like completed, they were washed out. We didn't have any inventories by the June or July, and we had to really start getting the new supplies. Most of our supplies were stuck in the supply chain pipelines. We started getting them cleared, because by the time Chinese industry were already started operating by 90% of their efficiency. We started getting them cleared, as we said, and completing those smaller projects. And alternately, we started creating a new supply chain from the other countries. And by the end of the year, we were actually successful having alternate sources. And now it is well managed. So even so, pandemic taught us those lessons, that how it is important to create your whole supply chain flexible with the velocity that you need to move in. And the third factor is how can you actually reduce the lead time. The lead time of the components earlier, which used to be around 8 to 9 months, were actually being proven in 3 to 4 months, so almost half. So this is the lessons, and the first and the very important lesson is that even in the manufacturing sector, you can work on the virtual platform and still manage your suppliers. But yes, the important thing is you need to keep in connect, a lot of connect, because when you are meeting them virtually, you really need to have almost a daily connect with your supplier partners. It really helped us. These were some of the few lessons that we learned and the way we managed.
So coming to, I have two questions, and any of the panelists can answer that. In terms of for your respective businesses, what was the dependency on China, and what was, a backup, created, or solution created so that the dependency is less on China? Neelam, you mentioned that you identified, even Viraj said that, identified new vendors and suppliers. Uh, so going forward, what is the strategy that you would have? Would it be creating something in India, less dependency on China, or looking for other neighboring countries where you can source your material uh, at the comparative prices?
Should I go ahead, or should I just
Please.
touch upon the small? Surely, definitely, because pandemic has taught us a lesson that you cannot have only dependencies in one geography. You need to spread out your supplies into various geographies. Because if the situation like coronavirus again comes in, uh, or the situation continues whatever it is right now, you just cannot depend on one region or one this thing. And that is the reason we actually intentionally took lot of steps to develop the capacities out of India, out of Taiwan, out of Korea, the other low cost countries, so that you have a spread supplies, and this whole risk can be mitigated in the times of coronas.
Viraj, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so as part of food industry, we have very less dependency on imports basically. So because everything like commodities, so tomatoes, vinegar, salt, everything is grown locally. So there is very less dependency on exports on importing raw materials. However, even for the specialty raw materials like flavoring, some special preservatives, Now, for that also, what we have realized is that we need to have a more local supply chain, or diversified sources of supply. I mean, sources of supply, and we cannot depend on a single source of supply for these specialty material as well. Because normally, what happens is that as part of risk management, we do a Pareto that I will cover 20% of my top suppliers with 80% of the spend, but we always miss out these small suppliers, and if one of them goes down, the entire supply chain crashes, right? So that is something that we have learned, and have ensured that there is a diversified source of supply. From I mean, with respect to China, we don't have that much of dependency because everything is grown locally. But yeah, for these special raw materials, which we used to source from different countries, we now try to diversify across different countries, so that in case of any such eventuality, we are prepared to deliver the business.
Anton, how did Vedanta cope with the thing, and what is the change of strategy in terms of supply chain?
Yeah. So, good morning, all again. Devin, in fact, I was listening to what Viraj, Neelam, and Ramkesh was mentioning, and more or less we have zeroed in on basically what we went through and the risks which we had to go through. I would like to take a step back and look at the situation when we hit that point. As procurement and supply chain professionals, we have been dealing with risks and problems, and primarily looking into how we can mitigate risks or problem solving on a piece-to-piece basis. But this one event actually was a consolidation of all those events in one go. It actually left us with just an internet connection and few devices and to our rooms. So from that perspective, I think we started from the fundamentals of what we have in hand, how we can use it. When the process actually was not working, we depended on people and technology. That is how I would like to put it. We relied mostly on the stakeholders, how they can step in and then support us during this event. We we speeded up our engagement in terms of technology, and that was one approach which we seriously did during that initial phases. Now, from leveraging stakeholder engagement, it was quite critical from an international standpoint. I will briefly touch upon the alternate source.
I think he dropped off. Maybe
Yeah, there must
I'll.
be some technical glitch at his end.
Yeah. So, Ramkesh, since Anton has dropped off, so uh, how did Ericsson cope up with? So, what kind of dependencies you had uh, with China, and how you are sort of creating supply chains in India and other countries?
Okay, I
They've
can see
been
Anton. I think he is. Yeah,
Do I
Ramkesh,
continue?
you may continue.
Yeah, good question, Deben. As you mentioned, the pandemic forced us to rethink the entire process and entire setup of the business. This time, the pandemic lead another problem, and that was geopolitics. And for both, it is well connected with China. The third issue was China was the manufacturing hub of the world. The three things which are directly linked with China, then business houses and even telecom also thought there is quite imbalance in manufacturing and in supply. We are too much dependent on one country, and this lead to balance out the all supply source of the material. In same line, Ericsson is also going ahead, and they are redesigning their supply processes and supply setups and supply source as well. So we are making a balance out, so as we have uninterrupted supply for any part of the world from different part of the globe. Accordingly, Ericsson will have 5, 6 locations across the globe. We can cater the need, and we can meet any challenging situation like this. Similarly, for pandemic, company realize that people are more happy and more productive while working from home. In that line is also company is thinking to recreate the working space as per the convenient of the business and the people. This will also lead a big challenge. The surveys and the policies are being reframed, and shortly we will have new policy at place where more maximum convenient will be given to the people or the employee, so as they can give maximum output as they are doing in pandemic situation also.
Thanks. So you raised a very interesting question, and I was reading an article where you know it mentioned that this pandemic has triggered a technology revolution. This might trigger a fourth industrial revolution. The technology that would have come in a decade came in 1 year's time. So everybody has become a technologically savvy person. So uh, again, I have two questions. The first question is, what changes in terms of technology your respective organizations uh, developed during pandemic, because there's a lot of investment going on in technology and artificial intelligence and other such platforms. So has your organization invested in technology, or you already had prepared for a technological advancement? So I'll start with Neelam.
Sure, Dibin. So naturally, just to talk about the industry I belong to, there was this basic setup of connecting technology platform was already there. Now the point, the pandemic, what actually how pandemic helped to improve this technology infrastructure is, as I was telling earlier, that in manufacturing industry working from home is not a very common concept. You can work when until there are some special issues and special thing. But then last 1 year, most of us working from home, other than the people who are actually working in the factories, but the other staff, the management working from home and still managing it effectively, and connecting with the team globally. This is something a new learning for us as well. And I think that's from the behavioral perspective, how I think manufacturing industries also are going to be acting and promoting more work from home, this thing, because this definitely helped the industry to cut on their lot of infrastructure costs that they used to maintain for having the staff, in terms of staff, offices and all. The second portion on the technological advancement, yes, there has been a lot of push, and the one of the push that has gone is in the data, data system, uh, or data analytics system. And I'll tell you why. It's not that data analytics was not being talked before pandemic. It was talked before pandemic also. But when we were able to see our whole supply chain, on the system, that where is how many components at which location, which warehouses, we were able to access it through our home computers or through our computers sitting at home. It is very effective to know what are the real situation, and how can I manage and move out the components from where to where, and how can I still manage my manufacturing at the plant. This really helped us to give that. Secondly, in manufacturing industry, it's very very important to have this preventive maintenance of the machines, to understand, especially when it is manufacturing or in the assembly lines. There is another effort going to understand that how good health of my machines are in my setup of manufacturing. Because if I know that my machines are now going to have lesser useful life, or I can still produce so many components out of it, it gives me a good signal when do I really need to go investing into it, or buying a new machine, or improving something onto this. Third factor is, I'll talk from the procurement side. When you see a whole spend analytics system, spend analytics data on your system. And in procurement, cost is very, very important. When you could do cost analytics with all the data that's in the system, this data is either coming from SAP or JD or the other ERP systems, and I can really predict the cost of the future for the future components. And this really naturally helps me to negotiate with my supplier, because I have a strong database based on the historical data of the existing components, and I can predict also the cost of the future components that going to be developing. It gives me a strong base to negotiate. So a lot of the infrastructure and the technology was spent into understanding the supply chain technologies, and naturally there are AI systems there, data analytics systems there. And I think it's easier to convince the management also to get the budget spent onto the IT now, because all of us has experienced it, and we know how important it is to have this IT infrastructure up and running into this kind of pandemic situations. This is what I would like to mention.
Thanks, Viraj.
Yes, so we at Kraft Heinz, we're already in a process of major transformation in how we do things. So even before pandemic, when if you follow the news now, Kraft Heinz has been undergoing a major journey or transformation journey right now across the technology spectrum. Now, one thing where we have our basics right is that if we want to move as one engine, well-oiled machine, we need to standardize our systems across the markets, right? So that is the first step which we are working towards. Like, what are the systems that we have in US? Is it same that we have in China? Is it same that we have in Europe or Australia? So we are undergoing a major standardization drive in supply chain, and post that there are a lot of projects in pipeline in order to how to automate or how to make the decision making more, I would say, fail proof. So there are several tools which are in pipeline. So if you see O9, which is for demand planning improvement, and OMP, which is for supply planning deployment. There are several of these tools which are under discussion, which would get implemented. But the first step is towards that is standardization. Now, this is for supply chain. Now, as Neelam rightly pointed out, that in manufacturing also you need there are a lot of technological advancements that are happening. So we have recently deployed, not recently, during pandemic, 8 to 10 months back, KHMS, which is the Kraft Heinz Manufacturing System, which is like one of its kind system which focuses on plant's advancement towards end-to-end supply chain synchronization. How do we synchronize our supply chain towards customer demand? So we are moving in that journey as well. Now, what is part of this KHMS? It is digital manufacturing, which tells you in advance that okay, what all equipment failure modes can happen, how you can arrest them, and how you can improve the reliability of the plants. Second is how you reduce your changeover times so that you can respond faster to the change in consumer demands, right? So all these works are happening across different domains. Similarly, we are now also working on the logistics upgradation system, which is on the post-production logistics. So basically the transportation part, deployment part, and the final delivery to customers. So there are projects happening across the stream, and this pandemic has only accelerated the rate of these projects, because earlier our target was, let's say, for example, to reach there by 2024. Now we are pushing a full lever, and we want to reach there end of 22 or start of 23. So that's this pandemic is actually given
Accelerated.
us, yeah, accelerated or given us a signal that we were on right track. We need to move very fast towards that now.
Right. Anton, I see you back. Your video is not there. So we were talking about the technology acceleration that uh, COVID-19 triggered. So how was Vedanta already into uh, making technology advancement in their processes, or this pandemic has triggered the technology, AI, and other similar platforms in your business? Okay, I think there is some issue with his network. I'll move to Ramkesh. So definitely telecom industry is largely dependent on technology. So, what changes have been incorporated in the business in terms of technology?
Yes, Devan, you are rightly said telecom is known for technology. And as Neelam mentioned in one of his discussion, the technological development which was happening in 10 years, the same is happening in 1 year. And telecom industry by nature products are business to business, B2B, and highly technical products, solutions and services are there. And one size does not fit all operators. Short product life is also there. This is a big challenge. And above all, high capital investment and innovation cost is required in telecom industry. Then to fit or to meet all these challenges, every company has to move fast in technological development to remain survive, even if not leadership. And Ericsson, since last more than 140 years, remain leader in telecom technology. We are one of the fastest growing 5G network across the world and offering latest technology to the all operators across the uh, globe. And during pandemic, many country or a few countries, say 4 5 country, get live 5G networks. And I'm hope we will also have feel and experience of the new technology in India very soon.
Great. So another point, Neelam, which you touched upon was work from home, and this experiment has worked. Do you think it's a long-term solution, or we had to compromise or with the solution because of the situation? We were confined to four walls of our homes. Basically, humans are social animals. We can't live in isolation. Uh, so, do you think it's a long-term thing, or you can have a mix of work from home and office setup? Because uh, we've been doing a research on what people feel, but the latest trend shows that people just are dying to get back to their offices. So, what are your views on it?
I think your research is quite right now because it's been 1 year. People are only working from home. So, yes, definitely people are trying to go back to office. I understand it's my opinion that in the future we are going to see the mix of and especially I'm talking about the industry I belong to because, as I said, my earlier, I mean, the industry in my industry, it was only the office. Work from home was in the special cases, but now the management, HR, and leadership team is thinking to have this mixed bag, and people. There will be more, flexibility into people's to give the flexible timing, working from home and working from office. Because one thing is very clear: we have seen that there is hardly any efficiency losses. In fact, we have seen people delivering more, and I'll tell you why. We have seen people delivering more during this because when they are working from home, there is a good amount of time that they can, because all this travel times has been has been cut. All the news, I mean, even when we are in office, naturally there is. We go and have discussions, a lot of other meetings. But here, people knows that these are the meetings. They are on time, entering on time. Travel times are cost. All those travel times they can spend with the family. So surely, I think in the future, it was going to have a mixed bag, and people are surely going to support this. And in fact, we are getting the feedbacks from the teams that mixed is a better option than just only one of it.
Viraj?
So, uh, so uh, all points that Neelam rightly said. Plus, I'll add some of the positives and some of the negatives that I see. Now, positives that I see is that yes, people are saving a lot of time, money, and less stress of traveling because, as you know, right, in metros, traveling is a big headache, and that is something that we're able to cut down, and that gives some mental relief to people. The other good thing which I see is. Which is actually very good is a lot of women managers are now coming back to work so a lot of so I know in my network, many women managers or women leaders who had kind of retired to take care of their home. Now they are exploring and they are now coming back to the employment grind, and they are just simply doing great in their careers. They've got a chance to restart their careers in much bigger and better way now that work from home is a new normal, right? So things have changed. Things will never be the same. Uh, Having said that, the negatives that I see is that when you work in an office, that drives a lot of networking and a lot of out of the box ideas that get generated when you talk to people, when you interact, right? So some of the departments or some of the functions like marketing, or I would say even the sales marketing functions, R&D. Now these are the functions where you need to have presence in office, because that's where ideas get generated, right? So these functions, they are kind of suffering a bit because of work from home, uh, and we need to see how we can have some kind of hybrid model. Now I'm in big favor of having a hybrid model moving forward, because that gives you flexibility of working from home as well. And then uh, for reviews, for priority settings, for one-on-ones, for that team building sessions, you have that connect with the team as well as you go to the office. Now some of the things that I have, like, I also want to point out specifics that what's happening in the industry, in my peer group, or when we discuss. There are two models that people are talking right now for long term in the IT world, in this whole shared service space. One is that, can we come to office 1 week a month, right? So you stay at your hometown, you stay away from the metros, and then for 1 week you come to the office. We finish all the monthly reviews, monthly connects, one-on-ones, we move back. The second model which we are working on, or which might come up, is 15 days every quarter, right? So that is also a model which is being, many of the companies are exploring right now. So this is going to be new normal, and we need to be prepared for it, how we can maximize and get the best of both worlds.
Thanks, Anton. We've been missing you in the discussion, and we were discussing about uh, work from home, if it's working for your organization, and do you see it as a long-term solution?
Yeah.
So can you
Yes.
share your views on
Sorry
that?
about the network. Yeah.
I think you need to
So
connect with.
Devin, I will switch my video off. Okay, I'll try this. So one important thing which I want to add to what Viraj was mentioning is most of the ideas, the creative and innovative ideas, evolve from cafeterias and a coffee
Yes.
with a colleague.
So he's vanished again.
Yes.
Ramkesh, I come to you. I think you need
Yeah.
to support Anton with your technology. I think he's struggling with technology.
Point noted. I will get in touch with them one to one.
All right. So your views on work from home.
Yeah, see, any natural calamity or any natural difficult living conditions or situation give opportunity to people to come closer to each other and support each other. They make very strong bonding within society. And these conditions also connect people to the nature as well. During this pandemics or this lockdown situation, we see many photographs that Himalaya peaks are visible from from UP and from Punjab, and beauty of ocean is being observed from Mumbai hills. These kind of photographs and videos we observe. Similarly, this give all rethink ideas. Then company like All and Ericsson as well is thinking to make a new normal in best suitable manner, that how company and employee both get benefit. I completely agree with Viraj, in which Viraj said 3 4 models, 2 weeks in a quarter, 1 week in a month, or say 1 day in a week. These kinds of model are being discussed in company, and survey are being conducted across the world. How people wants. One thing is very clear: in many companies, company are getting more output from employee by working from home, and slowly, company as well as people are adopting this model. Various wastage of time, wastage of fuel, and wastage of your vehicle on roads that are being saved, and good operation saving to the company as well as people. This is a win-win situation. Same is happening in telecom as well.
Thank you. We have a question from the audience, and any of the panelists can respond to that. The question is, how small and mid-sized companies can create corporate immune systems to quickly recognize and manage large-scale disruptions? Who wants to go with?
Do I
Yes, please.
say
It was
one first option in uh, wherever you are working, or say small or medium sized companies working in India or any part of the world, they need to comply the COVID compliances. And now immunization program is going on across the world. They all employee need to get immunization as per their turn. And second option is each employee need to give 1 hour per day to himself to make the immune system as per the requirement. And once every employee will take self responsibility, they will get in good health by having 1 hour exercise, yoga or meditation, whatever one choose. And a balanced lifestyle in eating and sleeping and rising. All these things are required, which will keep you and organization your fit. In our company, time to time yoga session and this kind of activity being rolled out at team level, at department level, and experts from outside or within team are taking lead to make this habit in morning hours or evening hours, or whatever is the convenient to the people. This will be help out.
Thank you. So we have another question from the audience. Again, it's open to anyone. We all are faced with certain challenges while working from home, and there is a need to enhance, stroke, implement new thoughts, new systems. So, do you have any thoughts on change management in the organization, like system implementation challenges, business users, adaptation to new systems, extra?
Should I? Can I answer
Yes, please.
this? Yes, there are two parts on which I would like to answer this. Firstly, whether, what is the need to enhance or implement a new system? As we just saw even in our call, I think network connectivity, the way we are connected when we are working from home, is very, very important. And this technology, surely, in some part of the area, is very good in India, but in some part of the area, we are facing. The whole concept should be driven towards work from anywhere, anytime. So whether I'm working from home, like working from field, I should get good connectivity, and that's where the system implementation, and I understand the technology companies has to be, will be surely working on, and will see a lot of improvement in the coming years or months. Second part of it is how should we drive the change management system in the organization, especially in this kind of the new challenges. On the change management, I have two things that I would like to mention here. First is we really have to see the change that we wanted to drive it towards the organization, the faster decision making. For an example, we all got locked down from March in India. Now, if the management would not have taken the decision or not have upgraded the whole IT infrastructure so that every employee can work from home comfortably, and if this decision would not have been faster, I believe a lot of our work would have impacted. So, the way it was driven during the time when we faced the situation, and we did it, and it was much faster. Because if you would have experienced the same thing working in the normal situation, you would have seen in any organization, it would have taken time. But here we all saw how our IT guys, how our IT backend guys, and all were up to job, and they all gave us those systems. So why I gave this example is that pandemic actually helped us to understand the flexibility and the velocity we can work it to implement any change in the organization. So that is what I feel is the pandemic actually helped us to understand the velocity and the flexibility we can work it to implement any change in the organization.
Uh, I think again we have a technology challenge here. Uh, there's another question
Right?
which Neha Gupta from audience has asked: how to deal with top management that's getting used to old traditional procurement methods?
Uh,
Uh,
should I,
who wants to answer? Yes, please.
considering I come from the procurement background, uh, I want to say one thing. It's even top management or leadership, whoever in the company, we would like to increase the efficiency of our whole system, our whole procurement system. Now it's not about dealing, it's also understanding. It's very very important to understand uh, that what is the vision, what is the target, what is the goal that the procurement top leadership has defined for the organization. Now it's not about how are you going to deal it, it's how are we going to work as a team to achieve that target is what is more important here. Now, if the leadership is able to tell the target and how are we going to execute, what would be our implementation plan, and if there are any challenges, do seek support from them and do support them to get those. Because if we are defining our departmental targets, whether it is cost, efficiency, supplies, or system, naturally we all have to work there as a team. So more than dealing, I think it's the collaborative teamwork that's required, and especially in this time, guys, because we as supply chain or procurement guys are at the end of receiving, because we have to get the parts. Design will take its own time, but all the pressure on the time comes, pressure of time and cost comes to the procurement guys. So do understand there is a lot of pressure on the management as well. So it's not about dealing, it's about how can we work along as a team with them and get achieve the targets that been set up for the organization by that function.
Viraj, your views on that.
So, so I've actually seen examples in my like my friends' companies. So when we say top management that are getting used to old traditional procurement method, someone needs to tell them that world is changing, right? We need to upgrade, or else we will be dinosaurs of the corporate world, right? And
So who
once
builds
that,
the cat?
sorry.
Who, I said, who builds the cat? Who would ask that question that the world is changing and you need to change?
Well, you need to take those risks, right? If you for the long term benefit of the company. But yes, so once the message goes through, everyone see, as Neelam rightly pointed out, right, that it's more about having that perspective, and this pandemic has opened up a lot of eyes on the need for change, right? So even right now, so let me ask a question, right? Like last year, lot of us got surprised, were got surprised with the pandemic and the lockdowns and the supply chain disruptions. Have we learned the lessons, and are we ready now? Because today we are again in India, we are facing lockdowns in some of the states, and we don't know where this will go now. So are we ready now? If we are still not ready, then there is a problem, right? If I really love my company, if I really want my company to grow, I would have learned the lessons and would have implemented those fail-safe methods, or I mean those systems in place, so that now I'm ready if this happens again in future, right? So that is something that the old management needs to understand and learn. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem in long term.
So there's a very delicate balance
Devin,
between. Sorry. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry to interrupt, Devin. I just wanted to look at this question from a different angle. The old tradition procurement method, as we or today's professionals look at it, is having a bit more of the governance standards, which is expected from the professionals of procurement and supply chain by the top management. I think I'll take that angle to this question. from that perspective, establishing governance in procurement and supply chain to suit the modern day speed and agility is something which we as today's professional have to build into the system so that it ticks off boxes from a governance standpoint. And of course, as long as that is taken care of, and we continue to strive and bring cost efficiency into the system, I think the top leadership should be okay to realign their approach towards procurement and supply chain. I think it is a question of bringing relevance to the governance and the policies which we are having, uh, and making it suit to the requirement of today's agility in procurement and supply chain.
Great. Yeah, I was about to say that uh, it's creating balance between spend and savings. So if you manage to do that, then
Yeah.
definitely the senior management would agree to that. There is a question. Oh, it's for me. Uh, I'm not supposed to answer the question, but how important is it to mirror our internal stakeholder structures? Uh, I'm actually not able to understand this question. Important is to mirror our internal stakeholder structure. Uh,
Should I help? I mean,
yes, please. Yeah.
yes, I understand from the question is how important it is that when we are seeing our internal stakeholders. For example, if I'm procurement, my internal stakeholders are naturally manufacturing, design, quality, and when we are talking about this, because when we all together as an organization, whether it is internal stakeholder or the external stakeholder, are together, we are surviving this pandemic. So I understand the way we as a supply chain guys understand or have our own set of challenges, they are also having their own set of challenges. For an example, just to give you, manufacturing, if we are not able to supply the components to them, naturally they cannot run the lines and they cannot run the get the production output rate that is expected out of them. Now when they cannot run, naturally the sales guys or the commissioning guys cannot commission the machines at the customer
Yeah.
side, so all are getting impacted. So it's important when we are saying our internal stakeholder, it's also important to understand the issues, challenges they are going through, and how we as a team can help together, because as an organization we all are have to survive this pandemic and becoming the winner out of it. So this is more from the internal stakeholders.
Well, thanks for coming to my rescue. Yeah, I fully agree now. I understood the question. I think it's again, while you're managing external supply chain, it's also important to manage internal supply chain and set the expectation. Uh, there's another question. I think it's the two questions, which is how will procurement function evolve post pandemic, and then looking ahead to 2021 and beyond, what do you think will be the key areas of procurement and supply chain will need to prioritize? Uh,
So I'll,
Viraj,
I'll,
you,
so
yeah,
procurement has evolved a lot in last 1 year. Okay, so from being observed just as a function who does the negotiations and contract closures and issue resolution, procurement is now supply securing function. So they reach their job is to ensure that supplies are locked in and be in constant touch with the suppliers. How do I see procurement evolving further is to they need to go one step backwards. So since they are part of so if forward in their domain, but for us it's backward supply chain integration. They need to now tap into suppliers and see that whether our business is secured or not. They need to have that kind of end-to-end visibility into their supplier supply chain as well, and that is something that will give the business that next level of confidence in terms of end-to-end data visibility. Because today we take it for granted that my supply chain strength or resilience starts from manufacturing to end product delivery. No, it starts from when my raw material supplier procures his or her raw material, and when they procure their raw materials. So that's where my supply chain starts, and I need to secure that as well. And that is the role which procurement will play on a much larger scale moving forward.
Thank you so much. And I've actually done my job as a project manager, finished it in 60 minutes. My closing remarks, while COVID-19 certainly has caught the world unprepared, the fundamentals of what it will take to compete in post-pandemic world shouldn't. In many cases, the seed of changes was sown long before social distancing and zooming, which Viraj mentioned, and became a household term. And we're trying to, embrace the new normal, invest in the future, embrace interconnectivity and transparency, and that's the success mantra of our businesses. So I personally wish to express my gratitude to all the panelists for sharing their experiences and thoughts. Thank you so much for your attention. Over to you, Manya.
Thank you, Deben, for being a wonderful moderator for the session. Really appreciate the same.
Thank you, Dibin and
Thank
Manya.
you, Deben.
Yeah, I think we were not able to get more views from Anton, but altogether it has been an insightful session, I believe. And I reckon audience have gained actionable ideas on how to design supply chain that are optimized for cost, service, and resilience and move the team forward. I would want to thank the audience who stayed with us for the entire session and also our eminent speakers. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you, Mania.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Take
Thank you,
care. Stay
Manya.
safe.
Thank you,
Bye.
Devin. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Bye.